Good afternoon and welcome back. Please take your seats. We have arrived at the concluding panel discussion of the conference where the power of tabloid news will be discussed. Please welcome the moderator, Boris Kalnoky, Head of Media School at MCC.
Hello. So Ralf Schuler used to be Bild-Zeitung in Berlin. Now he works at another news outlet. Jacek, please. Jacek Karnowski, and he's editor-in-chief of Fratria. And how to pronounce the other one? Shietz or Shietzi? Rainer Schmidt, please join us. Owner and editor of Express in Austria, and last but not least, Omolnar Miklos. And he's head of a tabloid division at MediaWorks, runs a whole bunch of tabloid outlets, and my personal experience in this matter and expertise is limited to 3 months of internship that I did in 1988 at your newspaper, Ralf, at Bild-Zeitung. And from that time, even 10 years later, there was a legend about me at the paper. According to the legend, but it never happened, according to the legend, I presented myself at the editor's office on day number 1, and I said, "Sir, I have a question and a request. Please, can I write under pseudonym? I'm so ashamed to be here." So, never happened, but there was a background to that. Why did the legend arise? Indeed, I stopped writing for Bild after my first story. And after that, I just sat at my desk and did nothing. The reason was a lady called Bild, and she wanted to harm her husband, who was a politician. Now, she had left him for someone who claimed he was a millionaire, and she would be rich if she marries him. But in fact, he stole money from her. But she divorced her politician husband. She went with this guy who then disappeared. And now she had, although she had separated amicably with the husband who had given her a Mercedes and a bunch of money, she had spent the money, she had no money left, and she wanted Bild-Zeitung to do a nasty story on her husband because she was living in poverty and he was a well-known politician. So I called the politician and I heard his voice tremble on the phone because he understood that what he will say in the next 3 minutes on the phone or 5 minutes to me, who you know, a 27-year-old intern at Bild-Zeitung, that will decide his future. He might be dead tomorrow, career-wise. And so that was an incredible experience for me to sense the power of that medium. In the end, I did the story, The Deep Fall of the First Lady of whatever city that was. And she called me the next day and said, I hadn't really expected that outcome, and now people are throwing stones through my windows. I'm getting death threats. And that's how I ended up not feeling strong enough to muster that power, to use that power of the tabloid press. Ralf, do we need, it's such an impact that tabloid media have on our lives. Do we need responsibility to deal with that power?
Of course, and no details, but I exactly know what you're talking about. I had some very uncomfortable talks with politicians too during my short career at Bild, but of course you have to think over what effects you cause with your publishing, but sometimes it hurts when reality is published. So what shall we do? We have to think about what is the reaction, but we can't. I think it's unhealthy for a society to avoid reality and to make a colorful picture of things they aren't real. So the main function of tabloid journalism, I think, is to be an ambassador from the lower third of the social pyramid to the upper classes. And sometimes it's not only a nice view what you present to the audience.
So you have a lot of power, a lot of influence, and that makes you attractive for politicians, I think, and also politicians fear you. Mr. Schmidt, what is your media outlet's relationship with politics in Austria?
It's very complicated because we need the politicians. You get a lot of money from the ministers and from the government. Of course, every tabloid, every newspaper, every media, especially the government-ruled state TV. And so it's very difficult. You have to be one of the pillars from the democracy and to look very exact what the politicians are doing. And we write very critical about their doing every day. But as I said, it's difficult. You have to be, in fact, one of their partner. And that's not the best thing.
Be a partner of politics?
Yes, and that's really difficult to practice every day because you get stories from politicians. You write about politicians, you get money from politicians, every newspaper.
That's a special case, though, in Austria, isn't it?
Yes.
We don't have that in Germany or in the US, I would suppose.
Yes, it's, for instance, our state-ruled government TV, ORF, gets about now, again, 325 million euro.
Okay, but that's public media. You are a private media outlet, and you get money from the government?
Yes, of course, about advertisement and about some kind of, yes, helping from building up journalism and building up schools for journalism. And so it's very difficult.
All right, okay. Om naar Miklós, how do you go about wielding the power that you have with all these tabloids at Media Work?
May I start a little bit further? We are talking about power of tabloid media, but we should understand why is so powerful is this genre. I think we are living in the age of mass democracy. And everything which is able to reach the people, the mass, can be powerful in this game. But what does it mean, tabloid? It's a very important basic question for me. Do you know what is the origin of this phrase, tabloid?
No.
May I show you a picture? Here are 3 bottles from an American pharmacy from the late 90s. This is the time when the first tabloid newspaper were started by Hearst and Pulitzer, who was born in Hungary. And of course, this daily tabloid newspaper became extremely popular. This was the time when in American pharmacy was a revolutionary change. The medicine became from powders, pill, tablet. And the first very popular brand of these pills was the Tabloid. And the 2 phenomena are connected to each other. Why? A pill and the bulvár, the tabloid, is compressed content. I think this compressed content is the most important thing in this game. the mass need this compressed content, not just in media. Perhaps every details in the life. If you go in a supermarket, you can see a lot of chips. I think chips is a content that was compressed together. If we go to fast food restaurants or very expensive restaurants with a lot of Michelin stars, we get compressed content. This is the time of it. We like to understand, to consume things by very sudden ways. And these mass media products were the first in the media world which understood this thing.
Right. It's not just the compression, though, isn't it? It's the intensity. It's playing to the emotions. It's playing to the basic instincts of every one of us. Not just the compressed form is what matters.
Yes, and these are very, very important things, emotions and so on. But without this compression, it's not usable in every day. We are living in a world, the information are coming as a rain, and every people are looking for this compressed content. Not just the typical tabloid media users. I think everybody here do the same.
That's
This comes from the zeitgeist.
Tabloid form and spirit have permeated the so-called serious media as well. Everyone has to work with elements of that in order to obtain the reach that they need on the internet, and I think that's an important thought. Now, Jacek, you are not in tabloid journalism. You haven't been in tabloid journalism, but you look at it with envy sometimes, do you not? Why?
Now I have tabloid too. You can argue that we are everybody to some extent into tabloid media, of course. In Poland, tabloid started their presence in 90s, mid-90s, late 90s. And there is one story which is very memorable. Of course, there was the problem for news in the middle of season, of the summer, holiday season. And one of the tabloids published story, it was quite long, few days, that whale was noticed, was spotted in the Vistula River near Warsaw. Vistula River is as wide as Danube in Budapest, more or less, shallower probably. And they continued that story for days. And the world was really surprised, you know. Is it real? Is it a joke? What's going on?
The monster of Loch Vistula.
That's right. So this is very memorable.
You're still a tabloid man, I think.
Of course, a lot of stories. I think that we have very different types of tabloids. For me, the clear type, the let's say ideal type, is the Sun from 90s, 80s British English tabloid. With the peak in 1997, maybe, with famous first page, please the last person in the country switch off the light. And some argue it was the front page which convinced British voters not to vote for Labour. 1992, sorry. And the John Major administration was voted in. They received majority, and only 5 years later, Tony Blair was able to win over over Tories, which were in very bad shape. We have also Daily Mail, which is different, longer text, deeper, serious stuff, and completely unserious with clear ideological agenda. But the Sun was perfect mixture. Now in Central Europe, you have very often tabloids almost completely without politics. Bild, which they claim they copy, is much serious newspaper. The Fact, Polish tabloid owned by Axel Springer, started as a really serious paper, later was close to the ground, and now it's again trying to run some more complicated stories. So different types, I would say, different varieties. But I think that the era of really powerful tabloid is over. We can show the crucial moments. Death of Princess Diana was a special moment. The reaction of courts, of lawmakers, clearly tamed tabloid. Also the scandal with News of the World, when they broke into the mobile phones of crime victims and public figures. The result was the closure of the biggest daily in Britain, weekly, because it was the Sunday edition of The Sun. It was closed. Finally, it was closed because of the scandal. And so now in Poland, for example, as well, courts are very severe, and if tabloids have special war fund for cases, they are sure they will lose in courts. And generally, what was the source of the power of the tabloids? I think it was the fact that it was the main source of information for a large part of the population, of the voters. Very often the only one source of information. If you have printed circulation collapsing, even if you are successful in the internet, it's still not the same. The uniqueness of the fact that you have one product grabbed by workers coming back from, or coming to the factories, or coming back, and they read it, it's over. And I do agree that now it's kind of symbiotic relations between politicians and journalists and editors. A lot of stories, those stories are staged. They are artificial. They are in agreement with politics. Very rarely they publish something which is really.
Let's check with Ralph here. How many stories did you stage hand in hand with politicians as a Berlin correspondent?
Of course, never did in that way. Of course. Well, to be honest, a lot of politicians try to use you as a stage for their special theories or quotes or something like this. And you have to find the balance between whether is it important information you can transport for them, or do you support them more than the information is useful for the media? And this is the process you have to think about. But the point is that tabloid media should be, in the best sense, what Nigel Farage said, every pub is a parliament. So this should be the printed essence you have in the printed tabloid media or in the online media. But there are some...
Vox populi.
Yeah,
you need to be the voice of the people.
Of course. That makes a huge number of copies at the one hand, and at the other hand, it makes the function of tabloid as an ambassador from the lower classes to the upper classes. And so this is decreasing more and more, this function.
You've written a book about that, actually, did you not? Let's become populists or something.
Yeah.
And you describe an increasing disconnect, even in tabloid media, between what people actually think and want and what gets written.
Yeah, one function of tabloid is to attract people who are not interested in news, just walking around in the landscape of news, and are only attracted if there's a sensational thing happen. So that's why you have big letters, that's why you have big pictures, and you have a selection of political things which are really important for the life, or maybe entertaining, or cruel, or something like this. That makes the special mixture. And there's very different processes going on. So if you are publishing in the internet and you want to be reachable via American web pages, you can't bring any longer pin-up girls because the Americans block it. So you have to cancel it. In Germany, there you have the press council who is stating that it's not allowed to talk about where a criminal comes from which country, if it's a foreigner or something like this. So if you agree with this rule, you can't picture the whole reality. You only can say, some men were attacking each other with knives. Well, this is half of the truth. It were some foreigner clans who were fighting. So these processes make tabloid decreasing more and more in my mind.
Okay. And at your paper, actually, I want to ask you, you're a different dimension because you founded, or co-founded a tabloid outlet, and one question I want to ask you is why? The other question is do you also do that kind of thing, like not say exactly what happened because it hurts
absolutely
some
no.
feelings?
Every day we tell the truth, and that's so much important now in our days, to tell the truth every day. Let me tell about my old publisher from Kronenzeitung, Hans Dichern, and he told me years ago, 34 years ago, if you always write against your readers, against the people, you have no chance to get successful. Now we see the mainstream media in Germany, Austria, I don't know how it is in Hungary now. They wanted to teach the readers every day. You have to gender, you have to be woke, you have to think this about migration, you have to bring this opinion about COVID and vacations, and every day. And the readers feel like schoolgirls and schoolboys. Nobody wants that. And so you have now the opportunity to have a new media, and we have in our headline for Selberdenker, to think yourself thoughts, and you think about every topic self, and to get a new standing for your readers. And that's so important, to bring it back to your readers, that not the mainstream media tell them how to think, and they think like everyone, and we have now about 1.5 million readers after, I think now, it's nearly 2 years, 1 year and 10 months, and we can feel every day the success.
That's online, isn't it?
Online and TV station.
And TV station. Now, Mr. Omolnar, on the business side of things, you run, it's not just tabloid journalism, you run a big business with all these outlets. And here you have a competitor, if you were in the Hungarian market, who starts out online, never had print, and we all know print is slowly dying. So what tools do you use to be successful online? What do you do in order to keep print alive? Will it remain alive?
I think this is the most difficult question from the point of view of business. We study almost every day the solution of other publishing company all over in the world, and I think in the USA, the New York Times partly found the solution. It's not too difficult. It's very simple, but very interesting. They connected serious type content with tabloid contents in a package. They made bundle type subscriber possibilities for the users. They combine cooking apps, games, crossword puzzle in the same subscriber package. And it works. The
Just to clear this
serious
up.
content met with the tabloid.
I understand your point, but just to clear this up, because all these things you are describing have always been part of broadsheet, serious newspaper journalism. At Die Welt, we always had cooking advice, crossword puzzles, etc., etc. So how is that tabloid?
I think a quality type tabloid is a very catchy thing in every situation. If you put in a package of New York Times, or you use this type of content on your serious portal, it will bring you a lot of users. I think the quality of this content is the essence of this question. If you can produce tabloid type formats in cooking or in puzzle or every topics, you can mix it with your serious content. Sometimes serious content is, boring. Sometimes too long. Sometimes there is not enough time to consume it. Sometimes the writer, the producers of serious contents concentrated more on the details and not the essence of the question.
All right, I get. So that's what the New York Times does. But what do you do?
We try to prepare the same type solution. We try to create special content mix. By this content mix, you can reach more people. You can make wider your target groups. I think it's a very interesting and a little bit complicated game, but can be very useful in very short time. You will see from the numbers, you can reach day by day more users by this type of solutions.
All right, thank you. Jacek, so here we have it. Serious journalism must introduce more tabloid elements in order to remain on the market. How do you see that?
I think it already happened, and it was the first reaction of serious media, so-called broadsheet, to the crisis, to the situation in which they lose circulation. Not exactly circulation, but the number of copies they sell, later circulation. But now it's obvious that the answers, that type of answers, are short-sighted. It's easy to destroy your business if you overreact to the problems. If you see your numbers dropping, the natural instinct of manager is to sit down and think, let's do something. What? Let's do revolution. And that revolution is very often trap. We had a weekly in Poland, Wprost, established in late 80s, during 90s. It was extremely powerful machine, and I earned a lot of money, really millions of dollars. And when the problems started, they were impatient. They started to revolutionize. They started to make it simple, to write about celebrities, to give strange covers, not about politics, looking for younger readers. And they failed. Now they declared, a few years ago, they declared, we go green, we will no longer print the printed version because we are green. Of course, it was because they sold not enough to support. So we have to be patient. I think that more and more, every segment of the media market is aware that tabloidization or revolution is not the answer. What you have is very precious. It's not easy to capture new. And also you can, if everybody is kind of tabloid, everybody will have, let's say, 1 million clicks, 2 million, but you will lose something precious also in a material sense, financial sense. Your reputation, you as a sign of certain ideology, viewpoint, something which is in the heart of your business. But I accept that doing real tabloid is very difficult. You mentioned a lot of things. I would stress the simplicity, which is not easy task, because people very often just do not understand what is written in serious newspaper. They do not understand. They do not know. We had a famous journalist in 90s when he started tabloid, but it was not foreign format. He invented it, let's say. Of course, probably looking abroad. He had a habit to sit with almost ready copy, or before it went to the print company, and he cut out 2 difficult words in his opinion. Finally, it was like 1,000 words. You can use no more. People will not understand. Another example, the prestigious left-wing Polish daily Gazeta Wyborcza, when tabloids started to make career, decided, okay, we will create our own tabloid. They ordered huge research, 10,000 people, very serious, professional company. They asked people, what do you want in tabloid? And what is you don't want? The answer was that, oh, crime, terrible. We don't want to read about crime, about sex, celebrities, even worse. No, what you like? Positive information, high culture, information from abroad, interesting people, and positive heroes. And they released such tabloid. The title was Nowy Dzień, New Day. And they failed, of course. And they failed. It was disaster.
People lie. Okay.
And they didn't believe that numbers that you have 1/4 you expected.
Yeah, people just pretended that they wanted these things.
Just a word to tabloids and success. It's a simple formula. It's hard work and hard news, no puzzles and no games. And we see it every day. We have Google Analytics every minute, every second. And we see every news story on our website about politics, about crime scenes, or like that. We are getting more and more readers. And it's the arrogance of the old newspaper makers, the old editors of paper. They don't like to work from 5 o'clock in the morning. They present their news every day in an ignorance of internet now for 20 years. The ignorance of internet is now going on for 20 years. And they present the news in the evening or in the morning of the next day, and they are wondering why do you lose readers? That's the problem.
All right, Ralf, Bild has been very successful in transitioning to an online business model. How did you go about that?
I have to underline what he said. You have to analyze in real time what the people want. Just remembering all the time that the dish has to be tasty to the guest, not to the cook. And so you have a lot of tools, even especially in online publishing, to see in real time what people read and how they read, how long they read, how often do they scroll, and where do they come from other sites. Have they used searching machines, or where do they leave the web page? And you can analyze this and use this information to see some of the articles aren't read enough. So what is the cause of this? Do we have to use better headlines, bigger pictures, or you can try maybe 3 times to brush it up and to make...
You fine-tune on the go. The article is already out there. You see it slow and you change something in it.
So some publishers thought it's enough to transform the printed content to the web, and it's okay. This is not how it works. It works if you have a lot of managers who are looking and analyzing what is going on in the online publishing and change things that don't work. We got heat maps where we can see the red underlined articles are read very well, and the blue ones has not enough traffic. So you can adjust the storytelling of the blue ones. You can try to make it harder at the headline or something like this. And if it don't works after maybe 3 hours, the topic has to go away, and you have to place something new. This is quite expensive, and it is hard work.
Do I understand it correctly that you had to hire lots of people to do that type of work? People who are
so
packaging the content as it were. And did you have to fire journalists in order to have enough money to hire the other guys who package the news?
No, we hired additional people to optimize maybe the Google function of an text. So you can manipulate the crawler of Google, which is then a program and a special program who is grabbing the articles from web pages and is ranking it if you're looking for something in the web. So you can manipulate your topics so that if somebody is searching for maybe Budapest, your articles on Budapest will be in the first row of. So this is not journalistic, but it's marketing for online, and it's expensive because you need the people, and it costs time, and it costs a lot of investigation what the people really want. But let me add one other point. The main problem why the power of tabloid journalism, especially in Germany, is vanishing, has to do with the complete different reality of the journalist working in the offices to the people outside. So most of the tabloids are made in big cities. So the journalists can use public traffic. They can use bikes. They have often they are vegan and very woke, and they think this is representative for the rest of the
They
society.
don't know reality, and so they cannot depict it. I see your point. You've written a book about that, and you have argued that it's dangerous for democracy, because if tabloids start becoming detached from readers, people will not believe them, and if they don't believe the media anymore, soon they will not believe politicians anymore, not just the parliament anymore, and so the whole fabric of democratic society begins to unravel. Is that a fair resume of your argument?
This is exactly what I wanted to say. The pressure is rising. If the reality, the majority of the people is living in, is different from what they see in the media. So they start to no longer to rely on media, and they start to be skeptical about democracy at all. And this is the dangerous thing.
All right, so we have 4 more minutes, and each of you will get 1 minute to reply to the following question. Is tabloid journalism a pillar of democracy, or does it corrupt society? Who wants to start? Go.
I would say yes.
To what?
It's a pillar.
A pillar, okay, go.
Yes, of course, a pillar, but it's also dangerous, and you have to think about now the very fast work of journalists. It's a high-speed work in online journalism, and so you can have a lot of more mistakes in your articles than before. That's a really danger for every media product now. It's on print the same, it's now in online news the same, and on TV stations. And we get so many fake news from Facebook or Twitter. So we have to give a lot of our work time to check this news.
Okay, fact-checking is becoming ever more important.
Yes, very important.
Quality control, and that's where cost-cutting starts in many newsrooms. But you think that is something we should not. That cost should not be cut. We need to invest in that.
Yes, of course.
Okay, Mr. Olmonar.
My answer is yes, of course. This
What?
is a pillar of mass democracy. The mass media and the mass democracy are almost the same. May I say something, how changed our editorial work in the last years? We start the day, every day, with the analysis of the facts. What the people want on net, from Google analysis to search engine analysis, the trends analysis, is the starting point of our editorial work. This is what else? The voice of people, what they consume, first of all, on the mobile phone.
Jacek.
I think that tabloids mostly pretend they are the voice of common people. It's a kind of game, and it's their ideology, but actually they do not follow it. In a lot of questions, they follow mainstream interests. They do not oppose mass immigration. The main price is paid by poorer people, of course, or the destruction of certain institutions they do not defend. So they pretend. They pretend, that's their mask. Okay, in every area of media you have a bit of hypocritical attitude, and so I'm not judging, I'm just saying my opinion. And I think that in post-communist countries they play double meaning role, very dangerous, because they very often weaken already weak states. For example, in Poland they have fought against the new airplanes for politicians, which was necessary. The effect was the state used post-Soviet airplanes up to the Smolensk tragedy. The cause of Smolensk tragedy is still under dispute. Some say it was deliberate, some say it was accident. I'm not going to solve this mystery now, but generally, after the Smolensk tragedy in 2010, it was obvious that something which may seem innocent, like saying that, oh, you corrupted politicians, you want luxurious planes for you, it was extremely dangerous. Proper state need certain institution and instruments. At the same time, they all up to date, they attack every initiative to increase the salary of MP, Polish MP. Their salaries stuck in 90s. There is some, you multiply, you increase their salaries, but not according to the general economic growth. So they earn relatively small amount of money. It's obvious.
And
that you
ding dong, your time is over.
Yes. One sentence.
You're very lucky that the tabloid professionals here, they speak in tabloid manner in small snippets of 1 minute. That gives you more time.
So how weak is the Polish government to kneel down from tabloid journalism? So I don't understand it, but
anyway, that's another question. Obviously, how much power can tabloids have over the political process, and how should and will political power react? But our discussion time is over, and we have some questions here. One of them, I think that's really a typical Viv Reagan question, I would say. Where are you? Yeah, I can. I don't even need to read the name. I can see from the question. So, tabloids are vilified and censored in the UK. This hatred is really about contempt for tabloid readers. They hate not the tabloid, but the people who read them. That's your thesis. I would say true or false, first of all. Second, is it the same in your countries? To our panelists, maybe, go on, Ralph, do people who complain about tabloids hate tabloid readers?
I think there's some truth in it. Well, it's this discussion pictures the scratch in society. So it's a view from a very high level to these creeping people at the ground, which is coming out in this statement.
And Viv, you said in your remark that tabloids were censored in the UK. Care to elaborate? Do you want me to have please explain that. And I want to hear from you, does anything like that happen in your country?
I'll try and be as tabloid short as possible. Yeah, there was a Leveson inquiry in the UK. It's censored in two ways. One way is that I'll give you one idea. It's hard for me to say how it's censored because it's about the stories that tabloids never tell anymore, because they are taken to court by royalty and celebrities and politicians to make sure that the stories don't come out. And now they have a whole host of lawyers who look at the stories before they are published, and over 60% do not get published anymore. That's what I know.
We've always had that, though, in tabloid journalism, isn't it? I mean, I remember standing next to the editor-in-chief at Bild, and he wanted to know everything about the story, every single little fact, and then he turned it into 15 lines of text. And the reason he wanted to know everything is how far can I go without getting sued? I think that's a fact of life for all journalism, isn't it? And for you as well in Austria, I would suppose.
Yes, it's getting more complicated. I can bring some instance for this, and we wrote about the second secret wife of the ex-vice chancellor. You know him from Ibiza. He had 5 years a secret wife and a secret child, and he told everybody about that, yes? And of course, it's a topic for a tabloid and for every media to write about that. And now we meet on Kurt about this topic because he says, no, that's too personal, and he don't want to read it in the newspaper. And so it's getting more complicated per tape.
But I mean, how is it more complicated? I remember in the 1980s, every single journalist in France knew that François Mitterrand had a secret daughter. No one ever wrote about it. No one outside of politics knew about this, and that was ages ago. So why do you think it changed?
In France, it was normal this time.
It's a All right, let's see what other questions we have here. But I need to put on my glasses, getting older here. So how would you, okay, it's not specific to tabloid journalism, I suppose, but how do you protect your sources for sensitive information that you get for a sensational story? Any volunteer?
I think it's a simple rule of journalism at all to protect the sources. I don't mention the sources if the topic is too tricky, and in the harder cases, I'm trying to lay out false traces.
False traces.
So that people who read this might think...
They can't guess.
They might... I try to steer them in the wrong way where I get the information from.
So not only do you not name the source, but also you give indications that point in the wrong direction, just to make sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. You do that, Mr. Schmidt?
No, not like that, because we have a very strong law that protect our informations and to protect our sources, and I never had the need to do that like you. And perhaps it's going on the other way now with a stronger media law in Austria. I don't know, because we never know what's going on in the next month.
But I want to return just briefly to what you mentioned earlier, because yeah, in Austria, media get money from the government, every media outlet, right?
Yes, I think
and,
so, yeah.
And I don't know, in Germany, at Springer, people would think that's outrageous. You're destroying press freedom simply by financing them.
Absolutely. Some of the publishers in the Verband, the association of the publishers, thank you, want to be subsidized for the distributing her products, and Springer was always against it. If you start with such things, they come next time and want you to be patient or friendly to the politics. We should not start.
So are you comfortable with taking that money?
We have. Yes, it's difficult to answer no, but
let's say it's a completely different market in Austria compared to
it's
Germany.
Smaller, etc. But still, I mean, is there a media outlet who ever said, oh, "I don't want this"?
No. Most of the money is going to the old newspapers in Austria, because you save the jobs from about, I think, 400 or 600 journalists. You can't afford the cost of paper and the daily economic sources you have with your income from your readers and with your subscriptions. You have too many people in your offices, you have too high costs in paper now, and so the government thinks to help these families. They are helping to continue with publishing old newspapers.
All right. Good. Well, thank you for that answer. I'm not comfortable, I must say, but I understand the argument that, you know, where else to take the money from. Still, I think it contradicts journalistic independence.
The question is whether the publisher is getting richer and richer privately. and takes the money from the state. But it's another building site.
Right. So, do you think, this is a question to all of you, and the last one here on my Slido, do you think tabloids should pick a side in politics, support one political camp over the other, or should they try to be politically fair and balanced? Mr. Omolnar.
Perhaps yes, perhaps not. It's a very difficult question. But going a little bit back, I think the business model of traditional media collapsed. And the media must find new sources. This is the biggest problem. There is not working perfectly a new model, a new business model. And media needs money. This is the background of the former problem.
Yeah, but if the price for that is just to give up on journalistic independence, then there is no media. It's not the same. Then you give up on what was the essence of the business.
Independent media was not just a dream.
You're talking to an old school journalist. We were raised in. I know it's a fashion now to say it doesn't exist, etc. But yes, please.
Of course, I think journalists can accept the idea that there is no truth and no independency. But actually, media were always, serious media, were always the product of the establishment. And you imagine old type of newspaper, solid newspaper. There were limits to which they can challenge the establishment, because you have something behind you. You have business, you have connections between business, politics, media. I do agree that it has to be the kind of banner of our mission. But as a sociologist, I can say it always was a bit of illusion in that dream.
Yeah, I understand, but this is nothing new. I mean, this has been said since journalism existed. We have always known it. Yes, obviously, as a journalist, I will have my views. They will influence how I present my story. We have known this since the beginning of times. It's nothing new, but it gets talked about it today as if it were the discovery of last week, you know. But on the other hand, there is a truth out there. And yes, we're looking for that truth and trying to understand it and to present it to our consumers. I'm personally not ready to give up on that. Ralf?
Well, I think if journalism, especially tabloid journalism, is balanced, he's already dead.
Yeah,
so
good answer.
Let's refer to the old Bible sentence. Your answer should be yes, yes, or no, no. Everything over this is evil. So you always have to be decided. And
should you pick a political camp, or should you pick a side concerning a subject, a problem?
Yeah. You should
not fight for political party, should you?
No. You shouldn't march with any party in the political era. So you always have to be decided on the special topic you're writing about.
Right, okay.
But it's very often that tabloids pretend they are marching with different parties and they are siding with different sides of the discussion, but actually the crucial moment is what they do just before the election. Because you can allow yourself a lot between elections, but in democracy it's important. And in Poland, at least, they support mainstream parties, so it's they can let's say punish liberals or left wing between election, but when you have election, you have generally.
You must be horrible tabloids in Poland.
German out. Yes.
You know, what the contradiction I see is really, if you want to be the voice of the people and people are tired with politics and don't even want to talk about political parties, then how can you support one side, you know?
We make one mistake. In my opinion, the main motivation to buy and read tabloids is not politics. It's kind of entertainment, more and more. Entertainment, kind of very close connection between tabloids and television. So they consume heroes and losers from the television, and they redigest it and produce something. It's visual contemplation. Contact with tabloids, it's reading them, it's visual. It's visual experience. Some say closer to the television than to the normal press. So it's much more complex. I think that we over-exaggerate the role of politics in the success of tabloid, at least old-style printed tabloid.
All right, okay. I think you want to say something, Rainer.
I said it before, it's a kind of infotainment to mix with hard facts and also interesting stories about politics. We have a lot of stories every day about politicians on our Express, and they are most read on the charts. But we have also you said it now, our TV online on the website. You can check it every second, and you can look on our TV program on our website. And so this new style is one of the pillars of our success, to bring the new tabloid form and to bring the new video form everyone knows from TikTok and from Facebook to our readers. And just one word to independence. I worked for 3 newspapers, and so I hope nobody knows what or who I'm now outing, because one publisher told me, yes, you can write everything about this ruling party, but 2 weeks before the election, you are quiet.
The publisher told you that?
Yes.
Okay, and that sums up that point for us. Thank you very much. But I remember one conversation with you, Ralph, and on the topic of picking sides in politics, you once said to me, actually, we are regarded as a political actor in our own right. So it's not being beholden to a political camp, it's actually politics look upon you as a political actor in your own right, and you can shape the agenda.
Yeah, it's sad to be that we are a political actor, and I'm deeply convinced that even tabloid media aren't able to create a political feeling, a political mood or movement. So we only can amplify things that are already there. So it's not true that media can turn around a political feeling in a society. I think it's my experience during some years of journalism.
So all that positive reporting on the Greens in Germany had nothing to do with their political success?
No. So the mass media in Israel are mostly left-wing media, and the people electing Bibi Netanyahu all the time.
Point taken. Okay, that's a fair point. I think we're coming to the close of our conversation here, and we need to be very much on time with ending it. So thank you for having participated in this panel, and I invite the public to applaud you.